Welcome to the Making Money in the Music Business podcast, where we share insightful views on a variety of topics in the music industry that can help you make more money from your music business. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. William E. Smith and Kenya McGuire Johnson.
Hey, Kenya, we're back.
We're back, Dr. Smith.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's just you and I.
It's just you and I this week. But these are always good. I'm glad we're able to have moments of guests and then moments of us, because we always have always food for thought.
Food for thought. Yeah.
Always food for thought. So, yes. So this is not anything different. So what you got for us, though? You're leading today's topic.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Well, but first I get to the topic, I'm going to jump on this music tip. And the music tip is actually something I saw on my feed, Facebook feed. I guess it's an ad, but these things are always pretty cool. I checked out the website, and it's a MIDI guitar. So for those of y'all guitarists out there who want to don't want to carry around like the big acoustic, just to hear your sound. And if you're traveling or if you're in, tight spaces with family and all these things, that MIDI guitar is actually a pretty handy instrument. And I think it even comes with a backpack. So you can disassemble it and put it back together. And it's super tight and portable. And, it looks sort of like one of those old school not old school, but like rock guitars,
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It actually, it's black and gray, and it's, really, really handy. So I saw they have pictures of a person in the back of a taxi playing their MIDI guitars.
Playing the MIDI
on headphones.
Oh,
so
God.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. What kind of price range are we talking?
It's kind of up there. It's like $450 around there, but it's like, I think, the name of it's called playjammy.com. And that's, we'll put a link to it, but it's playjammy.com, playjammy.
Playjammy. All right. Let me jot that down. Okay.
So if you're interested in learning guitar, it'd be a nice little tool to have. Like, stick headphones on. You don't have to worry about disturbing anybody. So
yeah, maybe I need to I've been attempting to play guitar, but I kind of had resolved that maybe it just, I don't know. I find it difficult going from piano to guitar because the fingering is it's such a different use of fingers.
I chalked it up.
Yeah.
I can play about maybe 4 chords on the guitar.
Right.
I know the basic bar chord stuff and whatever, but whenever I need guitar on my productions, I will hire a guitarist.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I just didn't realize I was going to be so uncomfortable physically. My fingers, I just was like, so anyway, I was told just keep practicing and that changed. But all right. Yeah. So what is our topic for today?
Well, our topic is, it was an article that I saw on CNBC, and it was Alex Ohanian, who's Serena Williams' husband. And he was saying how Serena had told him what he thought was a compliment. She said, you work harder than I do. And then he was like, well, thank you. And then she promptly told him that was not a compliment. So Serena, and if you know Serena Williams, of course, the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Absolutely.
She's and one of her coaches, he also coached. He's like a big time coach. He's coached NFL. I think he coached Tom Brady. He coached a bunch of other people, and he said nobody he's ever worked with has worked harder than Serena Williams.
Wow! And I was just having that discussion with a group of girlfriends. Her commitment to her work ethic is just on a whole nother level.
For her to tell her husband that, you work harder than I do, and that's not a compliment, that says something.
Yeah.
It says something. So just to quote the article, he said that being very disciplined with his time works. And this is, it's been really important for me to make sure that when I am working, I'm all in on focusing on work. And when I'm not, I'm all in on not focusing on working. And so that balance, he said, is crucial to success. And we can't do our best unless we have those resetting moments.
All right. So our topic, we're talking about resetting moments. Is that kind of what we're digging into? The importance of that, or
work-life balance?
Yeah. And resetting is a...
resetting is a tool of that.
So I think there's a lot of language nowadays. Well, because I straddle the music life, but I also straddle the mental health, behavioral health life. This notion of work-life balance is starting to become an old term. Like, it's no longer relevant. The idea of balance, even, should we be using a different word? Is it realistic to say balance? I personally have never looked at balance as 50-50. There's many ways to create balance. Balance is anything that equals the total sum, right? So if we're saying 100%, 20 plus 80 is balance. 40 plus 60 is still giving you the 100. So I've always looked at balance meaning we need to fill the pie, but the percentage of which we do it, maybe. But I think traditionally people have thought about 50-50 and thought, work life meaning half. That I don't believe in at all. I just, the idea to think that you could split your time completely in half, to me, I think is a very huge underestimate. I think though, what he is saying as far as when he's committed, he just as hard as he works in his work, he works just that hard in his time away from that and with his family and, personal life. That I think is, to me, more telling and what we need to do.
If you sit and think about it, because if you just gloss over the article and you don't think about he works hard at work, but then he works hard at not working. And that's something that, I experience every time, I have a break, especially now. This is really perfect timing for me because I'm on spring break. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm having problems trying to not focusing on work and not focusing on doing something.
Right. So. Yeah, we have hit a really interesting era because we have trained our minds and our bodies to work, especially in American culture, because, other cultures in this, he's not American. So this also might be why he really gets this. I think that American culture is one of the very few. I don't know if I can label another one. Maybe, I don't want to be wrong, but I know American culture is so hyper-focused on work. And, I know, especially obviously in Europe and more Latin American, South American, the value of family and the value of time away from work. It's built, at least in a lot of European countries, it's built within their government that, and within their systems that, when we say vacation, they call it holiday. And holiday for them can mean a full month. It typically is. It's you don't do this, a couple of days on the weekend, or it's typically a 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And even the way family leaves when you have a child, that's a part of, you can be off for a whole year. And that's, oftentimes with most pay and all of that. And so we just as a culture have not valued.
And even rest. Daily, they have siestas.
Right. And I have a siesta daily in my life. And we'll get into how we kind of do this in our own lives as creative professionals and musicians and artists. But yeah, that's a part of, their, and even in some other countries, that's very common in the Latin, South American type cultures is the siesta part. But even, when I've gone to France, the way they do time of the day, the way they take ease, in the afternoons, I'm seeing people at 2:00, 3:00, just lounging, strolling, walking. I mean, it was just a beautiful thing to see people at such ease in the middle of the day and the middle of a work day, or what we would consider a work day. So I do think that the pandemic, though, is clearly resetting us all and kind of relooking. But I think people who this is their first time working from home,
Yeah, it's definitely a wake up call.
They're having a difficult time, to divide that. Mm-hmm.
And that's just those moments of the unknown, that we're faced with. How do we redefine or just basically look for a new identity within this situation? And because that's something that I've been dealing with as well, is like if you're trying to change something, you have to replace it with something else. And that's because nature abhors a vacuum. So you can't just have nothing, because you've already, carved out a space for something. And so in order to change it, you have to insert something else. And finding out what that something else is key. I think it's like really the important thing to really figure out what that is before you start implementing it. Figure out
and be willing to sit still. I mean, I know and this may be kind of my public announcement, because I've kind of hinted to it. I said I have to put it in my newsletter to my fans and then to my Patreon people, but I've decided to take a pause from music. Not from our podcast. This is, I love our podcast, but as an artist, I was supposed to release, I've been promoting and talking about it, and the song is done, the cover art, the video, all the things, everything. All done. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to release this March or April. We said spring. And I was all along, I've been feeling a bit anxious, but I've been in denial, because I couldn't quite understand what the anxiety was about, because I've worked really hard on this song and this project, and I love it. I love the song. I think the video is amazing. I love when I can love my work. But there was something clearly really missing. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm tripping. So I knew I had to start that whenever things like that, when my human is like, what you doing? What? Then I know, okay, it's time to go to spirit and really sit in spirit for a bit and allow spirit to talk to me and to reveal. And I know that gets a little in our woo-woo, but when I say talk to me, it's, you all do it. For me, it's when, you're sitting still and then there's just a thought that pops in your head, or, just something you're reminded. And every time I did that, I just kept hearing stop. Like, just, you need a minute, just rest. Like, and it's so ironic, 'cause the song that I'm releasing is called Rest, or that I was going to release. It's called Rest. Oh, and Lord. I just kept hearing it. So I, after this was a really hard decision for me, because, and I hope artists can hear this, when you start getting momentum in your music, and, you're like, this is the most probably fans I've ever, in terms of my social media build up. I mean, the numbers are good in that way. I've got good engagement. And I'm like, I've got people subscribed, all of these things, and you don't want to disappoint. I'm like, I can't disappoint them, but then it's like, okay, whose life are we living? Whose life are we living? Their life or your life? And I went away. I had mentioned going on vacation, but that was really some time for me to reset. And I was also doing a fast, I mentioned, during that time. And so it really became very clear that I needed to rest, and that I needed to work just as hard on me and resting. And so when you're talking about working hard, and that is hard. And so I told myself the month of March, you are not to like launch anything or whatever. You can be writing, you can come up with ideas, you can, whatever. And, obviously I have some other work job things that I do on a daily basis, and podcasts and things like that. But I'm very good at coming up with ideas all day, all night, all life. Mm-hmm. And I said, whatever idea comes, write it down. But it is not the time to launch it. It is not the time to launch it. And that was hard. That's hard to sit in there. But what's been so awesome is I've been able to cook. I've been able to watch movies, and I haven't felt guilty about it. Right. I haven't, I've been able to take my naps. I've been able to, just enjoy loved ones. I've just really, my kids, all of that, and not have the guilt behind it, because I made the decision. It's time to, you have to reset this in another way. So this time of doing nothing is very weird, not to be, but the relief I have which is even further validation for me. It wasn't the time for me to release this song because the level of relief, I don't feel the anxiety. Each day I feel less like guilty or whatever. You know, I just, it's fantastic. So as artists, I know that this COVID has kind of shut things down, but I think in a weird way, you know, you get scared or you get like, uh-oh. And so you might start to overcompensate and get busy in other ways because you're afraid that scarcity mindset kind of gets in. Suppose I don't have this, suppose I don't have that, suppose I don't have this, suppose I don't have that. And then you start, you know, going and crazy doing all this other stuff because of fear that you're not going to make it or that something wrong is going to really, really happen.
Exactly. Yeah. That, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, the fear of something wrong happening. And so we've always got to like cover our behinds by, you know, doing all this extra stuff, you know, do this over here, do that over there. And I definitely have that going on. And that's something that I've been working on because I'm doing like 20 and 11 things at the same time.
Right.
And but part of that, too, is there's not necessarily just the scarcity thing. I think I have so many different interests, and that's what sends
You're
me.
multi-passionate. They've got a term now, multi-passionates or multi-passion people who. Sends me in 20 different directions. Me too.
And, you know, and I've tried to balance that, but it's something that you have to recognize, and it's something that you have to sort of address. Because you're restless. You're not going to be satisfied until you're at least doing something in those arenas. So what you can do is just at least do maybe one thing a week to feed that little beast and make it happy. But so I hear you on that. But I think you, like I said, you hit the nail on the head about that. About talking about how we really need to just, like you said, reset. And go and take some time and process.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I've been telling clients that I'm doing counseling and coaching with, because that is my kind of day thing to do each day. And I'm doing this for myself, is we have to start having our lives and ourselves as little science projects. I say little science projects because I mean, we have to start discovering and exploring and getting curious about ourselves. And in a way that maybe we've never done before. And I do think that, you know, it is a really phenomenal time to be doing therapy and coaching and things like that, because you have somebody to help. But even if you aren't doing that, even if, you know, you're not able, or you're not at the point where you want to have somebody else involved in that, you still should be getting still and starting to get really curious about yourself and your interests and the different things that are about you. And that doesn't mean go now start that business tomorrow because you found out you like grasshoppers. Like, I mean, it's not, it's about just kind of sitting in that and exploring that and sitting and maybe writing about it, you know. And one of the other things that I've been doing, and, you know, I this is so, I talk about this a lot, and this is around the spiritual space, but if you're looking at, because there's such weird things happening, right? There's so many things happening in the world right now on so many levels. So I immediately go to spirit and like spiritually, what's going on? And I've mentioned this before, you know, astrology is something I've been really digging a little bit more into and understanding what nature and the universe is actually doing. What are the planets actually doing? And one of the things, you know, we just had a new moon in Pisces. Those of you who follow astrology and all that, the new moon indicate, and we're in a really kind of cool space of rest. March is actually supposed to be this time of rest. So if you're feeling, when we talk about Mercury retrograde and people are like, it's supposed to be Mercury retrograde, it's going crazy. What's happening is literally the planet of Mercury is moving. It's moving in a retrograde position. You know, everything is usually moving forward. It's actually moving. It has these points that points in time in which it actually goes backwards. And so what's happening, it's not so much that, that means something bad. No. It's just we're used to forward motion and go, go, go. And so when Mercury is in retrograde, universally, energetically, it's actually attempting to slow us down, to kind of get us But we are so, one, disconnected from nature and universe and those things that we don't even acknowledge that. But yet energetically, our bodies are still existing in on Earth. And it's feeling the impact of an energetic force that's actually wanting to slow us down. So when we are attempting to move forward and we're going and it feels off and this happened wrong, it's because energetically we're actually going against the grain a bit. So
yeah.
I've
gotten to, I went through a lot of the astrology stuff. I went through a whole bunch of meditative stuff. And that's sort of one of the interests of mine. I went through all these different world religions just to understand how people globally look at spirit and deal with things. I'm now on a I guess a different path of and it's not necessarily different, but it's more, I guess you could say it's comprehensive. It's bringing it all in. And I think that, yes, I believe in, outside energies definitely affecting people's situations. But I think if you develop yourself enough, that then outside situations actually do not affect you as much as you think they would. And I think, but what it is you have what electromagnetic field. And that's what happens, is that people who do not have a strong electromagnetic field, basically, when we talk about electromagnetism, we're talking about your thoughts are electric and your heart is magnetic. So your feelings are magnetic. So when you combine your thoughts and your feelings and you're in sync and you're connected, then you've created your own field.
Right.
And that's where you can actually draw things to you.
Absolutely. Well, the universe is always working in your favor. It's never attempting to push you in a bad space. It's always attempting to propel you.
Yeah.
And if you're not in tune, if you're not taking the time, this is why I'm talking about the self-discovery, so that you start paying attention to who you are, what makes you feel, like you said, with the feelings and the heart and the mind, what makes you feel a certain way. How do you typically respond to that? So when you know yourself, when you explore yourself, if there is a day, you can tell when a day is energetically off, because you've been, and it's not just because, the sun went to the, no, it's not, you usually can kind of look at yourself and say, okay, the energy's a little off today. Am I tired? Do I need more rest? Do I need to eat differently? Do I need to talk?
Here's a piece of that. So when you can tell that the energies are off, you now have some tools that you can actually rebalance yourself.
Right, exactly.
And that's actually the key part. So
exactly.
Yeah, you may be off, and yet there's outside things that may have happened. But if you know certain techniques, you're able to rebalance yourself and come back to your center and actually bring forth what you want to bring forth.
And that's the point. I mean, to me, and some of those techniques, I know for me, meditation is a technique. Stillness is a technique. For me, getting in nature is a huge part of my ability to get things back. So that's why I knew I had to go away, and I needed sun, and I needed heat, and I needed water. I know when my body, like I've studied it enough and paid attention enough to my moods, what makes me feel really good, what makes me feel really not good. and so that's why, so I think it's important, particularly as artists, because you're going to feel things even more, because just your vibration, the fact that you are able to use your creativity in a very overt way. I mean, we all have it, but as performing artists, that means your gift is not just something innately that you use for self. It's something that you actually use to help heal others, and you're of service in that. So I think that things resonate with us, people who are empathic, like it's a little bit, it's about, we're tuned more into that. It's a bit stronger. Right. So our self-care in that and our resetting in that has to be way more, I think, pronounced at times. Maybe I think it has to be more pronounced, because it's going to affect you more pronounced because you're an artist, and it's just a lot of times you want to take all of that and just but you first need to feel whatever you feel, and that, I think, that is a thing that maybe COVID is really teaching us, forcing us, is there's been such heavy losses. It's forcing us to feel. You have to feel. We can continue to numb out, can try to deny, and but the distractions that usually happen a lot of them have been pushed away. They're starting to come in slowly. A lot of people are, the vaccine, having hope that we will get back. But, I just think that the universe is not going to continue to honor your numbness. You're going to have to take some time to feel what you feel, so when you need to self-correct, or so but if you never pay attention to your feelings, you don't know. You just are just, you can be impulsive.
Yeah, that's how we've been trained in this culture. It doesn't go deep to the feeling level. And when it does, it's just lip service.
Yes.
And thank you for your service. Do you really thank him for your service? It's like, so that's very key and that's actually, admittedly, that's one thing I've had to work and still working on. It's just getting connected to what my feelings are, or like, what are you feeling? Cause I'm go, so cerebral, the whole thought thing. And you can't, and I mean, I'm good at that, but it's the feeling aspect, the magnetism. Well,
and you're also a man. And I think it's important. Gender is another really important thing happening right now. We've been living for the past thousands of years in a very, in the masculine energy, and we are no longer, we are shifting. We have officially shifted into the goddess feminine energy is starting. And so men, I think for men, this could potentially be even more striking for you, because we're moving out of the masculine energy. So you're being forced to understand feeling and emotion differently than how you've probably been conditioned or understood even to do that. And on the other side, as women, we've been so conditioned within the masculine energy that we have felt, in order to be successful, in order to matter, in order to be of value, we have to do. And do is a masculine energy. So when you're talking about do, that's normal. That's a masculine energetic response to that. Feminine energy is actually one of sit back and come to, and the energy, and let it come to you. It's way more of being than doing. So as women, if we're constantly in our doing mode, that means we're really pushing in our masculine energy. And this is why I think if you as a woman right now is feeling like, I just want to sit, I just want to, because the energy is we're now starting to experience the value of feminine energy, and some of it is very overt and clear, some of it is not. And so that again is watch how powerful as women you can be when you sit in that and allow things to come more to you, or allow or not get so heavy into doing everything, but thinking about it, feeling about it, coming up with maybe one succinct action, and then allowing things to kind of move from there, as opposed to over planning, overdoing. It's really fascinating. And I love this stuff, as you guys can tell. But Will, if you're saying, I think men right now, this is going to be interesting, because we're moving into a different type of energy, and you guys are being forced to have to think about this differently.
I think in terms of when I was talking about it being electromagnetic, your thoughts are electric, your feelings are magnetic. What you're talking about is that when you really focus in on your feelings, you draw things to you. That's the magnetism aspect.
Yes, exactly.
And if you overthink things, then you're not drawing them to you, and you're just throwing all this electric energy out there, and it really doesn't have any staying power, any substance.
Right.
But on the flip side, though, if you just feel all the time and you don't have any thoughts that guide your feelings, then you'll be all over the map as well. So it's a balance between.
It's a dance.
Yeah, it's a dance. But the magnetism is the stronger energy.
And
they've measured this. They have measured this.
I got something good to say. Please put a pin into this. But don't forget Kenya.
How many thousands of times? I can't remember. It's either like 5,000 times stronger than your thoughts, than the brain. Your heart is, and the field that comes out of your heart is that much more bigger, wider, and that's your heart is the strongest energy source.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So two things with that. Two things, please remember with that, because you just said the heart is the strongest energy. So we could be telling ourselves all kinds of stuff, thoughts, things, but if it is not heart centered, it's not going to come to you. So when we're talking about manifesting and we're talking about having these things come, you could have that all in your head, and that's good. I mean, because like you said, there's a dance. Mm-hmm. But if it is not in your heart, if it is not something that is a true core and coming from a true core, heart loving, intentional space, being space, I don't know if that manifestation will look the way that you are thought wise wanting it to be. We are manifesting all the time, constantly. Everything around you is things that are happening to you. You play a role in that. And so I think, so that's one big part. The other thing, what I was just saying about the feminine energy, that is actually, that's where we shine so hard is from the heart. And as women, we've been so led to think that our brain and our thought and our do is our power mm-hmm. mechanism, but it's really, it's here. And it's something for women that's very actually instinctually, naturally ours, which then, and no disrespect, but the power of the feminine. And this will start getting us into history and studying why we haven't been taught the power of the feminine, because it's incredibly powerful. It's so powerful that it was stripped from us and our understanding of it. And so I'm just letting everybody know, as women, we can't get too aggressive in that and start flexing in that too heavy, but be very understanding of that. And I think that men, in understanding and honoring that in women and mm-hmm. honoring that part of themselves, because men have feminine energy too. So that heart thing, honoring that in yourself can allow this dance and this balance to be much more in sync.
I totally agree with that. And that's, and I think what really, I guess, woke up that energy within me is when my mom passed. So that hit me right there in the heart. Mm-hmm. And I felt that energy, and the crazy thing is whenever I know I need to touch that energy, I just go back to that memory mm-hmm. and then that just like opens up that vibration. But that's for men, that is probably the hardest. I mean, and I'm sure for women too, but
it's hard for women too, but I think men, it's a different kind. Yeah.
That like rocks your world. That just like sends you in a whole different space, and you're trying to figure things out. And that's the thing. You're trying to figure things out. You need to just let emotion be. Yes. Yep. Because that's where you'll get the information. Yeah. The emotion will inform that. And, I have two sons, and I know, obviously I'm a mom, so it's already, mm-hmm. but I know how my boys respond to me, it's a different energy. It's a different patience. It's a different, it's just a different flow that, even as they're getting, older. My oldest is now officially an adult. I guess he's 18, but there's still just energetically this thing. So well, I know we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I did want to bring up, because as musicians, the Grammys was, right. Oh yeah. Yes.
On. Right. No, it's okay. I watched, I watched a lot.
I saw a lot of commentary about it, and I guess for me, it's a generational thing, but I think it's also beyond that. I think it's definitely an industry thing. I think there's
oh my gosh,
the industry has the what do you call it? The corporate side has sort of directed us in a certain direction.
It is this for me was the most clear that we no longer I want to be careful in saying this because I have a lot of respect for the Recording Academy. And I don't, I know people work really, really hard and attempt to make things as equitable and, attempt to make things appear diverse and, all of the things that I think politically we want our country and everything and music to move toward. I do think that genuinely there is a want for that. Mm-hmm. But I do agree. I think the music industry has become so corporate, and we have now been driven so heavy in that. And I don't just see that in Grammys. I'm seeing that everywhere around me, which is another reason why I know it's time for me to take a pause as an artist. I do feel I just had a human design reading. I don't know if Will, you know about that. That's another. You're going to have to look into, go research human design. Amazing. It looks at your chakras and kind of tells who you are based on your chakra energy. But anyway, one of the things that was revealed to me was more of me allowing myself to sit more in the behind the scenes and show and do the power more so within that space. And that I do feel music, it's time for me, to shift gears a little bit out of frontman artist because I'm watching how much we're losing, how the corporate space, we're losing artists directing the industry. The industry is not being directed by artists. The energy is being directed by executives. It always has been, but it's on fire right now. And the confusion of that is then your mainstream audience, who is not artists or execs necessarily, are believing that's music or that's artistry. Mm-hmm. That is not. In my opinion, it is not. And what there are elements, I see parts of it. I will say this, the one thing I was incredibly disappointed. I think there were 3 Black women maybe on that stage. And 4. I saw 4. So I saw Lizzo present an award. And I'm talking about not people who necessarily won. I'm just talking about people who were on the stage kind of making things go and performing wise. Performing, I only saw 3 Black women perform. One was a country singer. I can't think of her name right now. She's getting a lot of recognition, beautiful voice. And she has a song called, I think, Black Like Me. And it was good. It was good. I mean, she's got a good voice. It was good. The other 2 Black women were Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. And they performed their WAP song, which we've never talked about WAP. But anyway, I don't really dig all into the whole whatever philosophies behind the song and feminine stuff and all that. But watching it on TV and watching the only time I'm watching Black women in mass array twerking and opening their legs and talking about just how sexualized. I don't mind that. I look, go for it, girl. Do your thing. But when we talk about balance, I don't see I don't get to see my Black women, my Lettucey who won her Grammy. Right. I'm not seeing them be able to showcase their talents. I'm not seeing, other parts of Black women. I'm only seeing that. So
the Gram. So there's a lot of people that won Grammys. Yes. But it's what they choose to show on television.
Exactly.
What's the important aspect here. So
I have a dear friend who I started music with him. His name is D Wilson. D and I mean, when I first got out here, he's on my jazz EP, Jazz Made Rhythm. He and I do a duet of a version of, we rearrange Summertime in a certain kind of way. Very dear heart. He won a Grammy. He won a freaking Grammy this weekend with Jonathan McReynolds on a song, I think it's Best Gospel Performance Song. And that wasn't aired. I mean, they have the pre-ceremony stuff. And so, yes, that's the industry making those decisions. That's not artists. And if it is artists, they're the minority in the room. And
so what we're talking about really is the disconnect between what the actual Grammys presented and then what CBS and what those executives felt was important to present on television.
Exactly.
That's when what the Grammy chapters have to decide is, are we going to be involved in the production aspect? And I don't know if they are, how much, say they have and what gets seen on television. That's the discussion needs to happen. So
Yeah. And,
Grammy members, write in.
Yeah, because it's troubling. It's really troubling. It's troubling on many, many levels. And it used to be troubling because it's like, why you don't understand why this artist won this or that. What I saw this weekend or this past Sunday was troubling because I see us, especially as Black people, Black music, because Black music has completely, to me, been obliterated and made complete. It's not Black people who are doing and winning and owning in Black music. Yeah. Our art form is being completely taken advantage of, and we are sitting. And I can't stand it. I think that so much has been built on our backs everywhere we go, everywhere, music, everywhere. And so can't be everywhere, but I have been, as I've been sitting, thinking through kind of, as I'm pushing pause on this artist self, what does this mean for me? Because I love music so much and I'm so passionate about it. What does this mean for me? And when I saw the Grammys, it made me just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go plant and, I'm going to feed the birds. Like I'm just, but when I had my human design reading, which is why I said, get curious about yourself, because there's things about you that you may and sometimes you may need help. And so I in this very divine way, met this woman, and she ended up doing this reading for me. And when she said that, and she's like, your power is a much bigger collective kind of thing. And so but it doesn't feel like the face of it. It feels like it's a little bit more behind it, but it allows it to be even that much more powerful. And I'm like, So I have some other things I'm working on. But when it comes to the music industry, I'm like, I think, because having done this podcast, having formed amazing relationships, having you guys listening, this has been, I know this isn't all just for my little pleasure, This is to pay it forward.
Well, when you help others, you're helped as well. And it's all a reciprocal situation, but you're like Yoda.
I feel
you're training new Jedis.
Yes. And I can't wait. And I've always wondered, like, why do I like helping other artists so much? Or what? And I'm like, I think that's just the season. But, I guess to kind of wrap things up with everybody, that resetting and that working just as hard on your craft as also in your personal life and in your they all inform each other. Yes. And so if you're finding that you're working really too hard in one area, again, balance is a word. I say alignment, integration, synchronization, just something that allows the two to do a dance. Work and personal, they both really, really matter. And one, sometimes one gets a little treated like the stepchild. So I think this is the time to, if you're working hard in the space of work, like Serena's husband said, then be willing to work just as hard in the other space and, creating yourself. Resetting. And, I am still doing coaching. Because I know sometimes we say these things and people are like, okay, that sounds really good, but how I do that? Right. Please just know that, again, you guys can, you can email 3MB podcast at gmail.com. Or you can go to our website and we have links. I do a free discovery call where if you book a time, literally it's no cost. It's just to help figure out what resources are available.
Exactly.
So do that. I'm constantly getting my mentors and people to help me along the way. So
that's it. We all are. We got all it. This was a very jam-packed episode of good tidbits, but also just how to get your spirit right.
Get your spirit right. I mean, y'all know me and Will, we're going to go into spirit.
Oh, you know it.
But it's the foundation. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it's the foundation.
I agree.
So
there we go.
All right. Well, we'll be back with another guest next week. We'll be back in our guest flow. And thank you guys for listening, and make sure you share with a friend, share on social media, comment. Subscribe to our YouTube. If you're like, what do they look like? Jump on over. Well, they search 3MB podcast on YouTube, and you'll be able to find us. It'll be up there. Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
We'll be back next week. Take care.
You guys take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Please subscribe to our podcast on your podcast player and leave us a rating and review. Also, please leave us a comment on our Facebook or Instagram page. And if you would like to contact us about a specific topic, you can email us at 3mbpodcast@gmail.com.